to our second podcast. Our first was so successful with under 100 views, but we're going to keep it up. We're going to keep it going. We're going to keep it hot. We got an expert here today to kind of show us a little bit, teach us some stuff. Also, you might notice Dmitrii's missing, and we have a new host. Dmitrii will be back, but Carly is a new addition to our podcast host. We will shortly introduce her. First, we're going to hit Ian with the new events coming up for the chamber right now. You know what I mean? Hit us with those up-and-coming events.
Yeah, we got a couple of good ones going on. Of course, we got the weekly Daybreakers meeting, which is the bread and butter, every Tuesday morning at the Norman P. Murray Center at 8 a.m. So
that one's going to be awesome. You know, come on.
That's the one everybody goes to really connect with people. Women in Business is a really big event coming up. This is the second year we're doing that. And that is on the 27th at Arroyo Trabuco Golf Club. After that, we've got Restaurant Week, which everyone loves. All of the restaurants that are part of the chamber get a big marketing push. All of us try and go out to as many as we can. And then afterwards, try to lose some weight.
Absolutely.
And then finally, we got the final quad mixer of the year, which is several chambers getting together to mix and have some fun.
What chamber's hosting that, Ian?
That I don't know.
Isn't it RSM's turn? They done one yet?
Ladera.
It's Ladera?
Ladera Ranch.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Ladera Ranch.
Ladera. Awesome. Heck yeah. This is going to be a fun one. Where is it at again?
I don't know yet.
You don't know? Oh, yeah. To be determined.
Yeah.
It'll be a good one, though.
I think they said, didn't they say it was at in the San Juan, or is it the RSM winery?
I think so. I think they mentioned that, but they were flip-flopping on the time and start.
Yeah.
We'll get those dates out there soon. They'll probably be in the description. Go ahead, check that out.
Yeah, I do remember hearing about wine. That got people excited.
Everyone remembers wine. Well, do we want to introduce Carly, our new host?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, we do have to introduce Dawn, too. We can't forget our guest. Our guest, Dawn Kamber. We'll get to that. Let's introduce Carly, and then we'll introduce Dawn. Go ahead, Carly. Who are you?
It's a self-introduction.
Yeah. Tell us all about you.
Fabulous. So my name is Carly Trimble. I am the owner of Reward Calm Dog Services and also Canine Connection. So my Reward Calm Dog Services company works with individuals and their dogs. I'm a dog psychologist. And we figure out what's going on in your dog's brain that's causing the undesirable physical behaviors that most people call a dog trainer for, but we get it at the root in the brain. And then we also get in your brain a little bit too, and we balance the whole pack. And then my Canine Connection company, we take packs of dogs and we work with drug rehabs and sober livings. It's a great passion of mine. It's really cool because a lot of the dogs that are living with us are currently in rehab themselves. Trying to find balance, and it's really fantastic to show the parallels to the clients of the drug rehabs, and so that they can kind of look a little out of the box and learn a little bit about themselves and dogs.
All right, when I became a parent, I learned that being a good parent was about fixing my own behavior instead of the kids. I think that's pretty similar with you.
That's 100%. It's about 80% the owner always, and 20% the dog, I would say on average.
Hey, well, this is Dawn Kamber. Dawn, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Dawn Kamber. I'm with OC Talk Radio. I do a weekly podcast called Impact OC, where I interview people who make an impact on Orange County, many representatives of nonprofits. I also help businesses do their own podcasts. I can help them figure out people to interview. They can do a weekly podcast that is on octalkradio.net and on the YouTube channel. And by doing that, you can build your business by letting people know who you know, interview experts, and spread the word to increase businesses and getting more clients.
Heck yeah. So, Dawn, I wanted to invite you here. You saw our first podcast, right?
I absolutely did.
Okay. Yeah, a little tough, right, guys?
We're working on it.
We're working on it. We're building.
First one is going to be the
I
best.
thought it was a star, but
It was as good as we got. We're trying. So, what do you think? Like, we want some constructive feedback. We kind of want to hear how do we make it better? Do we do the microphones within the hands? Do we have them hanging from the ceiling? Like, how are we going to do this? How do we progress as a podcast?
Well, certainly each individual needs to be heard. So you talk about microphones, it would be great to mic everybody so that they're heard.
Yeah.
And then let each individual talk about their respective businesses and then interview each other about the respective businesses. I mean, right now, Carly, there's a lot to ask her about her business. Yes, she could increase business by getting more clients, but there's a lot of interesting things to learn from Carly. Just by knowing Carly, every time I look at a dog, I think of Carly, and I asked her some questions about dogs, and I'm learning all the time from her. That's her business. Ian has a business I'm fascinated with. Everybody has a business. Everybody has a story to tell, and this is a good place to share stories about your business, to let people know that you youngins are doing wonderful things, and then you could grow your business as well.
So you just add some more structure to our initial podcast.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I think structure, that's kind of going and loose for the first couple, and I think that'll come as we go.
Don, what would you consider when you set up a podcast, since you've done this for so long and you've been a professional? What are things that you do? Because you say all the time, podcasting is a great way to, get the word out about your business and, get people to know you more intimately. What do you do ahead of time so that you're getting the most out of the time spent in hours?
Someone's gonna take notes.
I do research ahead of time to know who I'm talking to. And then
So you can introduce them, right?
Well, I actually let them see the introduction, the intro script,
Okay.
so that I'm properly introducing them. And
Sure.
then I put a list of the possible topics I may discuss so that we're on the same page. But I'm fully aware of a lot of the things that the business or the nonprofit is involved with, so that when I ask them questions, they'll know how to answer that. And then it just makes a more informative show. The one thing you don't want to get in a show is where the guest is like, I don't know how to answer that. You don't want to put them in an awkward situation.
Right. So do you give them do you kind of go through the questions ahead of time?
I do not go through the questions. I am a journalist.
Okay.
I give them the list of topics. In effect, that is like the questions, but they're going to know the answers with the topics, just the key topics.
Okay. So can you give me an example of topics that you would, for instance, somebody wants to start a podcast, right? Just they wanted to start this podcast.
Like us, we wanted
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I would start with a standard way to get into the show, where you have one key host introduce the host self and then everybody else, and say this is what the purpose of the podcast is. And then if you're going to have a guest, you would then introduce the guest, and then you kind of have a little structure in terms of what role each host has within this podcast. You don't normally have more hosts. You usually have one host, but in this case you have 4 hosts, but you could give everybody a role. There is the show The View that has many hosts, so you could do the same thing here.
Yeah, I think typically we're gonna have very few guests.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be primarily us 5, and then I wanted to bring you in to kind of show us or just kind of give us constructive feedback like this. This is amazing. But when it's just gonna be us 5 and kind of just the in-depth detail kind of pulling.
Right.
Next episode we'll kind of dive more into Carly and who Carly is and stuff like that. But it's what type of advice would you give for that instead of because it's not centered around necessarily guests, but
I
it's
want to
centered
bring a
around.
guest every single time from here on out.
I do forget we have a schedule of guests booked, but it's I feel mostly it's going to be focused around us and growing, how we as young professionals grew our business. And then occasionally, I think we need to postpone the guests, low key. Am I wrong?
This is our first attempt at it, so
Yeah.
I think
It just
it's about
depends on
finding
what
out.
you want to do.
Well, I love that we have Dawn here because this is her expertise, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, that is not any of our line of business.
No.
And so just even her experiencing it, right? And then watching the first one, experiencing it right now, right? And there are people, I'm sure that there's plenty of people, I'll be honest myself, I'm like, I would love to be on a podcast to experience it. Because I do think it is a fabulous way for people to get to know you intimately. And I myself watch a lot of podcasts, and that's what makes me fall in love with somebody and then buy their book or buy their supplements, or, you know, I'm a big biohacker, and, you know, all of that stuff. So, but I guess like my question, I'm going to come back to you, like when you're interviewing something, do you have like maybe 5 questions that you always hit that you think are super important, or is it totally
It's
custom
totally
or-
different depending on the guest and the organization that I am interviewing. In my mind, I do have a goal. Sometimes we want to promote an event that the nonprofit is having, so we want to hit upon that. But the key thing is you want to get the why. Why is this organization so important, and what meaning it has to the people it serves? Carly, with your business, I mean, I could ask you a gazillion questions right now, and I'm really like restraining myself. Because what you're doing is so fascinating. I mean, everybody knows somebody who has a dog, and every dog is a personality. But getting back to the point, it's good to have in your mind curiosity about whoever you're interviewing.
Mhm.
Now, the guest will always know an idea of what I'm going to ask, just because the purpose of the show is to highlight that organization, or in the case of businesses, you want to highlight the business. So you as a host, you have control of the podcast because you know what the audience should know about your business in order to grow your business. Or if you interview an expert, you want the audience to know that you know this expert, and this expert has a lot to offer you. And furthermore, because this expert knows me, you should be one of my clients.
And when you say you pull out the why, how would you
Yes.
say that you go about pulling out the why? Because I think that's really good for anybody as a young professional. If other young professionals are like, hey, I want to be on a podcast, you know, or whatever. Pull it, like, can you expand on the pulling out
I
the
just
why?
did a show on fentanylsolution.org. It's an organization that tries to combat the illicit fentanyl crisis that we're in. So why is this organization so important? Because fentanyl is the #1 killer of teens. That's giving you an example of the why. You have many different American Heart Association. What's the #1 reason the Heart Association exists? Because heart disease, unfortunately, is the #1 killer of everybody.
Sure.
So that's the why. And I think for young professionals, if they share the why they have the business, then it kind of builds upon that, the passion that they have with the business and why they're involved with it, and they want to get a lot of clients and they want to grow their business. And it's good to have their clients be interviewed to share why are they important as the business owner. And each of you who are involved with your business, you share that. And I will say this, also share the changing trends in your business. Because I'm sure, Carly, your industry has a lot of interesting trends, and you share them. Each one of you.
That's a nice way of putting it, Doc. Trends. Like, it's an animal. It's been a species for thousands of years, and somehow we come up with trends for it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, how silly is that, though, when you really, listen to it. So, Dawn, what's your why?
My why is I am fascinated with life, and I like to learn things about people, businesses, nonprofits, people in general. And I like to share that with the public. So the key with me is I get to find out first and share it with all of you. But in a podcast, we're learning it at the same time. So my goal in life is to share information with people. And the best way to do it is through interviewing people.
I like it. It's very similar to mine.
How is it similar?
Well, somebody asked me a long time ago to find out your true passion, to go back into your past and think of the times you felt the most fulfilled. And for me, every time was when I was educating somebody or helping somebody, whether it was, working at a nonprofit or actually doing my job, which I think is why I like my job so much. but figuring that out helped me find the right types of clients.
And I think knowing your why, right? I don't know that everybody has a clear defined why, you know, and I think you ask a lot of people, you say, what would your elevator pitch be? And, you know, your elevator pitch is literally you're in an elevator ride. Can you sum up what you do that quickly?
Yeah, and they're like, I need to eat, and I don't want to lose my apartment.
Right, right. But when you can tell people the why, and it's actually, I think that there's a big, I think one of the things that we're missing the most now, in the way that the world is where it's going, is that we're really in our intellect and we're not connected to ourselves. We're not connected in our heart. So when we speak, we're speaking with what we think sounds good, or what, you know, ChatGPT helped us write for our why for our company. But if you're not energetically and heart connected into what you're saying, people will not, they might not even notice, but it's a subconscious response to how you're talking to them. That I believe that's one of the main reasons that I'm able to sell so easily, is because I'm truly connected in my heart to what I'm selling.
Right,
And,
so much people are chasing the paycheck.
Right.
And they kind of need to nowadays because the inflation of everything is so high. Right, we talked about this at the Daybreakers meeting, which is where I need to go. But yeah, I mean, it's impossible to live. So it's like passion or food, right? And a lot of people have to pick the food.
Right.
Only if your parents were successful, maybe you can pick your passion.
Absolutely. Danny, what would you say your why is?
My why is to make the same generational wealth impact on others as my father made on me.
Okay.
And what impact was that?
It's the mindset of you can do anything you put your mind to, no matter who you are, where you come from, and you can literally do anything you put your mind to. So, like,
How do you feel that ties in your business?
my grandfather was the first to be above the poverty line. Katzman. He grew up in a 50-gallon drum cut in half until he was 18. So he slept in.
Okay.
On the back of like an 18-foot trailer with like 4 siblings and his 2 parents. Was an electrician. Busted his butt. And then my dad, you know, he wasn't gonna follow suit. He had no direction. He was sitting at a gas station. All his friends were gone. And he's like, hell, what am I gonna do with my life? Went down to SDSU, saw some fine women, was like, I'm gonna go to college, I guess. And next thing you know, he drops out of college, working $7.50 an hour, and now he owns that company. And now he sent 2 kids to private school, 2 kids to college, 2 kids that are gonna make a positive impact on this world, no matter what. They're gonna die trying. That whole helping people thing, if I don't help, I'm getting off the boat, okay? So it's like, what can I do? What am I good? Mama always said, don't do what you're good at, or don't do what you love. That's dumb. Do what you're good at and you'll love it anyways. So, poop, I'm good at finance. Go into finance. What can I do with finance? Make the same generational wealth impact that my father made on my family. Like, I'm in literally the perfect place. It's insane. Like, I passed all my exams in 8 months. I know, like, the smartest kids from my high school still haven't passed those exams. Like,
And you feel because your heart was in it and you had like
100%.
Yeah.
But you can't compare yourself to others because then you'll get lost and you're screwed. So just, was I better than myself yesterday? Yes or no? Yes, go to bed. No, keep grinding, okay? Like, you didn't do it. And, like, 100%, that's my why. Like, I'm so attached. It's insane. I carry around this letter that my dad gave me for graduating college. That's like, your great-grandfather was a janitor, your grandfather was an electrician, your dad was a printer. You are like, I'm literally one of the last Katzmans to graduate college from my dad's lineage, you know? And it's, we got a shot to make a serious impact. I got a great cousin up north. Like, I got a bunch of great cousins, but like, one that's just, he's a beast. And me and him, he's the oldest cousin. Shout out, you know who you are. I'm not gonna blast you though. And we're gonna make a serious impact on the Katzmans and hopefully a serious impact on the world in a better position. Because you know where the world's going, but like, there's a lot of good people out there in this country. Like, I went out to Louisiana State University to get some culture for a reason. You know what I mean? Those people need some help. There's no difference between me and them besides education. I was given it, right? I was given that generational impact. They weren't. So that's my why. And I think like our why, what Bryn was saying, cut in now. I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna do that. It got a little choppy there, but we have a serious why. That's like, I think you got to show your struggle of what this thing looks like, because it's not all pearly gates how I just painted it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a freaking. I'm doing 100 cold calls a day. You know. Like,
yeah, it's one thing to talk about your passion, it's another to say how much it sucks.
Over the phone in a cold call in 15 seconds, it don't work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a process, you know what I mean? And that's why we have this podcast, I think, maybe, is to show that why, and to get that intimate knowledge of who we are and how our businesses operate. And then I think that's why I don't know if it's gonna, but postpone the guest maybe for a little bit.
Flesh out ourselves a little bit more in the podcast.
100%.
Growth that point before we start. No, definitely.
What does our resident guest expert think?
You're on the right track completely. I mean, I can totally relate. When I was a young kid, I used to take doorknobs and interview people. Talk about a why. Every time the teacher says, "Are there any questions?" my hand was always up. I always had a question. Talk about a why. I was fascinated with everything. And when people would come over to my parents' house, I'd ask questions, and my dad, he was an actor, may he rest in peace, Dawn Kamber, he would cringe. Oh no, because I was curious about a lot of things, and I asked questions. That's my why. I want to know, and I want to tell you all what's going on.
Yeah, that's a beautiful why. Like, we need people like that. I think we need a lot more kids to get into that. Hey, if you're thinking about journalism, go check it out.
I don't think you see it's a more rare thing to see someone so passionate from a young age and pursuing that. I think that's a lot of times people tend to give up on that and things like that. So it's always great to highlight people that have followed their passions and led a life of success and getting to fulfill that, and what's led you to meet so many people all over. So it's really good to see and happy here.
So Bryn, we need your why.
Yeah, mine it really started, I think, from a legacy standpoint. I had this family aspect, and I was jumping around. I was trying a couple different things. I jumped into insurance right out of school just because I had a little bit more knowledge of it, but because, I mean, traditionally there's no real teaching of insurance in schools and things like that, and I kind of realized that in college. Ended up selling to insurance agents because I thought it was a great thing. And I was bouncing around for a while, and I think it wasn't until my mom kind of speaking to it, it was laid out that either do you want to do this or not, or we'll have to look about at some point selling off a portion of it. And I had to sit down and think about that, and thinking something similar to yours that my grandfather had built and started, and my family done so much over the years, it helped so many people. Thinking of selling that off to someone else was like, no, I should really get involved in this. And then going further and finding out how little people know about insurance, hearing about people that have claims denied because either things were done wrong, they weren't educated properly. The more you know, it's there's an old, I don't know the adage, but there's like a little picture of someone standing in front of a wall and it's painted really pretty and they're smiling, but the more they know, they kind of get up and see there's things wrong, kind of learning how much of an issue there is and seeing some flaws in the industry, wanting to be better and help and educate people, because I think that's all why we're here at the end of the day, to help people, but it's about what avenue and how we do that. So that's kind of wasn't the first place how I got to it, but it was more that legacy that brought me to, okay, this is how I can be helping people, how my family has for a long time. So,
Well, and I can speak working with you guys a lot, but going kind of back to the energy and the connection, like your company is one of those companies that every time I deal with you guys, I feel like I'm part of your family. And I say that wholeheartedly. You don't have that experience very often, you know, but you really feel like you're getting taken care of as if you're one of like I'm your sister, and that's like, it's amazing. Like it's a really beautiful feeling, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to experience that, but I think that is, you know, your why is because, you know, it's a family legacy and we want to, you know, take care of the family business, but then you extend that to your customers and they're all really lucky and blessed with that. So,
and that is, thank you. I appreciate you saying that, because that is, we're a small shop competing against some of the people with the most money and behind them in the world. So I think that is
Jake
kind of
with State Farm.
yeah, that is kind of how
Jake. It's all about Bryn Moore over
Hey,
at Parmenter Insurance.
anyone that's doing insurance in California we like
Yeah.
right now because the industry is struggling.
Yeah.
But
Is State
yeah.
Farm gone?
There's a lot in California, people pulling in and out between Farmers, State Farm, Allstate. It's as we say when we were going on inflation things where all other costs are going up. To cover that also goes up. So that is something we're seeing. And if people that are stressed in California are actually seeing it across the nation. Florida's in a pretty bad spot, but I think with the levels of inflation and the way things are going, it's some changes are hoping to be made, and it's but yeah, it's a tumultuous, tenuous time. Don't know. Maybe one of those words was right, but
Both.
yeah.
Yeah, cut
Okay,
it.
perfect. It's been a while since I've had my SAT vocab, so.
Don't worry, it's my expertise.
Yeah.
So, Dawn, what was your biggest struggle, would you say, with getting into the podcast? Was there ever a time you're like, I'm done, I'm doing something else? Or was there like, no, there's no like hazing into the industry or anything like that?
I feel hazed after 66 views. That was
Yeah.
pretty tough.
Can only go up.
No, because I know I'm doing good, because I'm helping an organization talk about the benefits of helping people, and I'm helping them get their word out. And I'm also being fulfilled because I'm getting informed as to what the organization's all about. So never, I'm just a curious person, so I'm just
Yeah.
fascinating.
You were getting paid to, with something that you would want to do anyways, which,
Well, I will admit, I don't get paid to do my podcast. I am a professional broadcaster who had a 31-year career with one particular radio station, and in January 2020, I was let go from that job. So then in July of 2020, I connected with OC Talk Radio, and I am an unpaid public affairs director where I get to do weekly shows that make an impact on Orange County. The only way I can make money is if I help people produce podcasts for this octalkradio.net, which is primarily a business channel. So that's the only way I can make money, because I will get a commission from doing that. But fortunately, since I work for the state, I get a commission, so I'm okay. But I would love to get paid doing the podcast, but I don't. But it doesn't stop me from doing it because I enjoy doing it.
and so with your broadcasting though, what was there any, 30 plus years.
Well, yeah, 31 years at one station, and then prior to that, I was
So
involved
there's
in
got to be, I've seen, what is that, the morning show? Like,
Right.
is there, like,
I've
what?
been involved in broadcasting ever since I was in high school.
So, I'm sure, like, there was probably a bunch of,
Well, I'd have to leave the area. I live in Orange County, so I can't really leave the
but
area.
I'm talking about, like a struggle and overcome,
Well, to get into the business of broadcasting in generality, certainly it's not easy to do.
Mhm.
Certainly I graduated college and I didn't get a job immediately. It took some time, but eventually I got my first paid on-air job in Las Vegas, and I ended up spending 3 years in Vegas, and then I moved from Vegas to Reno, and then from Reno I moved to Orange County and worked 31 years at a radio station in Orange County.
So for somebody that would want to get into broadcasting, they're just getting out of college, you went through the whole process, and it was, like you said, it wasn't super easy. What would be like your one or two tips?
Tips: go anywhere there's a job. That's what you want to do. You want to get your first job, do well in that first job, and then move on to the next job. In broadcasting, you're generally going to move, and just accept that. And that's what I did. My first job happened to be in Las Vegas, and like I said, I worked 3 years in Vegas, then I worked 2 years in Reno, and then the opportunity came to work in Orange County at a radio station, and I did that for 31 years.
I would second that. I think every single person here moved, right, pretty early on. I don't know about you, but
I have lived all over the United States.
yeah.
All
I
over.
moved
Yep.
immediately. Danny,
I
you
went
went
to college, yeah.
college. Yeah, Bryn left.
College,
Right.
first job, and then made it back eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, all my clients, I tell the kids, you should leave the state, wherever you're from, go somewhere else. You're either going to experience something different and like it and want to stay there, or realize that, yeah, you actually do like it here, and you can feel confident about that decision.
Louisiana, I'm coming home. Don't worry about it. I'm only here for grandma.
And the chamber.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
chamber.
Sure.
Yeah, the grandma
Hey,
and
if
the
it wasn't for the
chamber.
bee
Come
man,
on,
I'd be
yeah.
out of here. I swear.
But I think that is leaving your comfort zone does take a lot of growing up. I think I was actually talking about this recently with someone about how kind of finding out who you are, but finding out who you're not is kind of very important. Trying things to find out, okay, this isn't for me, is a very okay thing. And I mean, I think that's something in recent years, people, especially COVID, have seen people large career switches late in their careers and things like that. And I think part of the reason we started this, people new in business starting out new, because it's such a scary thing to be 30, 40. And because Carly, you would initially switch from equestrian work to dogs. And I'm sure there's some overlap, but I'm sure it wasn't. I think there was an accident involved too. So
Great
Yeah,
Danes
it
are the
was-
same thing, right?
yeah.
You know, it just, you know, just like Dawn, it's broadcasting. I was a professional rider for 13 years and horse trainer, and that's a talent, and being a broadcaster is a talent, right? And so it's almost the same as singing. They either like how you show up on camera. A lot of people can really sing, right? But do they like how you look? Do they like how you show up? Do they like your energy? Do they like your voice? All of that. And there's a lot of subjectivity to it.
Yeah.
So
art, right?
when you get into a industry which is subjective, right? So I mean, being a horse trainer especially, you have a lot of people that buy a horse and buy a book, and now they think they know enough to judge what you're doing. So, you know, you're constantly in and out with clients because they don't really know what they're looking at, right? So I mean, I moved all over the place for that career, but I just went to the next. Every time I made a move, I made sure that I was stepping up in the career. And I will be honest with you, I sacrificed absolutely everything. And that business was extremely lucrative and wildly successful until my accident, which is fine. The dog training I actually enjoyed more. So it was a blessing from the universe for sure. But, you know, that being said, like you said, Dawn, move, go, chase. You know, it's my biggest thing is put in the time when you're young and just hit the road and go. And even if you're like, I'm not even sure if this is going to work out, that's fine. Go for 8 months. You never know what you're going to get out of that job,
Right,
which
get a
turns
skill.
into, it's just keep going, you know, and the other thing is don't stay too long when you know that you've gotten what you've gotten out of that experience. You know, I think especially if you start your own business, the first like 10 years, maybe 5 to 10 years, you're not making it yet. You are figuring out who you are and what your business is, and what you're gonna do and what you're not gonna do. And my gosh, I'm never gonna service and sell this package again because, you know, I sold it for $2,000. That should have been $10,000. You know, you just learn along the way. But if you're not constantly moving and constantly, you don't get that on the job knowledge, and the on the job knowledge is your own business. But you just have to keep going.
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. I think you're right, and we talked in the first episode. I don't know, like if you recall, but about like the.
I was not one of the 66 viewers. I'll be
Oh,
honest.
come on. Come on.
That was my mom. Okay, no, she watched it 65 times.
Yeah.
No, but it was Nick was the other viewer.
Nick had to edit it.
Yeah, that's to make sure it came out clean.
Yeah.
So like, I think we talked about quitting, right? Like, when do you quit? And I think a lot of people these days just quit because it gets hard. They're like, this isn't. I'm not famous yet like Logan Paul. This is too hard. Where's my $1 million? Where's my AP? You know, like.
Where's my more than 66 views?
Well, come on, man. You know,
Hit it on the nose, yeah.
I just got
My
roasted.
first podcast didn't go viral.
But okay,
But
like,
we're back.
Yeah.
I'm not quitting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I think when do you quit? When you've maxed out where you're at.
Yep.
But you can only say that when you found your rut. You know what I mean? You found your rut. You're like animals, training them. You know what I mean? I'm working with animals. I'm being outside. Like, a lot of people haven't found their rut yet, so they don't know when.
I
hard
wouldn't
enough
say
to get
rut.
that.
I
Yeah.
like when
Not
I
rut,
see
I mean like track.
Niche.
Yeah,
Yeah.
niche.
Like
What?
your niche.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's part of why we're here, is we can help them find that. I was thinking about this earlier. You know, when I was growing up, I had all these pains. They're growing pains, right? I'm getting taller. I'd tell my mom, hey, my knee hurts. Oh, it's a growing pain. Leave it alone. But if I get a pain now, I'm 33, that's a problem, right? I gotta go to the hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
So in a new career, right, is this a growing pain or is this a problem?
Yeah.
And you don't know unless you hear from someone else who's been in the industry. As a financial advisor, 8 out of the 10 people I've known who were also advisors are gone.
Yeah.
The growing pain is knocking on those doors, and you're not doing that
Right.
now.
It's not
but
hard work.
Yeah. if you're doing that for
Anybody
30
can
years.
literally walk up to someone's door and knock on it.
Yeah.
But it feels bad.
Yeah.
And unless you know, like, that feeling, yeah, it does suck, it should suck, and it's going to last a long time. Like, I did it for a full year, 8 hours a day. But there's an end. If you know there's an end, it's a growing pain. If this is the whole job and you hate it, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Well, it's about that time, guys, huh?
It is. So.
So, how are we going to wrap this up, Danny? Why
I don't
tell
know.
us?
Let's hit our
How
expert
do we
with
get outta here?
how do we get out of here? I don't know. How do we leave?
Well, I'm Dawn Kamber from OC Talk Radio. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show.
Thanks for, being a guide, give us some constructive feedback. Do you think ultimately what we need to do is postpone some guests, get some microphones, and turn off the buzzing next door?
That would help.
Okay.
I thought he was going to say, do you think
Oh, we need
we'll
structure
make it?
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna make it.
Because we're in a growing pain stage right now. How long do you think we'll be growing like this?
6 to 10
As long
years.
as
We'll
we're having
see.
fun.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Okay, so we need some structure. We need some microphones. We need to quit the buzzing next door, and postpone some guests. Get to know each other a little bit better, and then we'll bring the guests in.
Yeah. So in the coming weeks, hopefully, we'll get things a little bit more smooth, and we'll watch us grow.
All right, if it gets too smooth,
You hear jazz music in the background.
I'll fix it.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring a comedian next time, so that will be taking the
That's me,
place
come
of
on.
all these.
Yeah, you want to
these-
listen to Daniel's bad
these
jokes.
jokes.
Carly Trimble with
Reward
RewardCom Dog Services. This is Ian White with Edward Jones. This is Bryn Parmenter with Parmenter Insurance. Daniel Katzman, your local financial services professional. We will catch you next time. It releases every 4th Monday, and we'll cut to Ian with the events. See you soon. Peace.
All right, now for our chamber events. Of course, the most important event is always our Tuesday morning Daybreakers event. That's a breakfast networking meeting from 8 to 9:30 a.m. at the Norman P. Murray Center. That's where we all get together, talk about our business, and of course pass referrals back and forth. Our next big event is the Women in Business second year, and that's going to be at the Arroyo Trabuco Golf Course. So they're going to have a fashion show and some speakers specifically talking about the how it is to be a woman in business. We've got the restaurant week coming up in the first week of October. That's where we get all the restaurants that are a part of the Mission Viejo Chamber, market them, and try to go to as many as possible. And then finally, we've got the last quad chamber mixer of the year. That'll be at a winery in Ladera Ranch in October. That's where we get a bunch of chambers together and all mingle and share business. Come back next month to hear about more events.